Hey Sewcialize, it's your favorite plus size designer, Alexis Lene, and I am back and we are switching things up a little bit. So, I felt like when I jumped into doing videos for YouTube, I never really introduced who I was. Like, I just kind of came out like, hey, let's just talk about all these things, and I never had a conversation to say,
hello, how are you? My name is. What happened to that?
You see what I'm saying? I didn't get to do none of that. So, we're going to take a step back and we're going to do that. I'm going to have a conversation with you and just tell you a little bit about who I am and how we got to here where we're conversing together. So, as I stated, my name is Alexis Lene. I am Sewcialize with Lexx, as you see on all my social media platforms. But before I was Sewcialize with Lexx, I was Alexis Lene, straight out of Pittsburgh, PA, and just a lover of what I like to say the main three things of my life, which is God, fashion, and music. Obviously, I love my family and friends and things of that nature, but I think that those three things are what embodies the Alexis Lene that I am today. So if you don't know already, I am the owner of a fashion brand, a women's wear brand called Amehi, which is an acronym for I'm Made in His Image. My main area of specialty is formal wear, so I do bridal, gala attire, bridal parties, proms, quinceañeras, you name it, I probably will do it. That will probably be a story in itself of how Amehi came to be, because I did not ask to become a fashion designer or a business owner. That was not in my plan, but that was clearly in God's plan, and I'm just here to do what he asked me to do. Okay, I'll definitely do a video later on in like a full story of how Amehi came to be, because next year, 2025, it will be 10 years since the inception of Amehi. 10 years is crazy, okay? Crazy. Because it still doesn't feel like it's been 10 years. And also, it feels like I just got started. So outside of being a business owner and owning this amazing baby of a brand, I also work a day job. Yeah, like entrepreneurship is great, but I need consistent income until the business does what I desire for it to do. So I am also the digital communications manager for a nonprofit organization. Shout out to Catapult Greater Pittsburgh. I've been working there for 3 years now. I started in October of 2021, and I absolutely love it. This is the first time that I've ever worked at an organization that I, number one, stand behind the mission, and number two, I actually enjoy going to work. And I love it. There's just so many wonderful things that I could say about the organization. I am responsible for all things digital. So branding stuff, making sure that everything is cohesive, our social media platforms. I produce a podcast. Our podcast is called the Lily Pod. And so we kind of talk about all things community, politics, and people. And then I do like the website stuff. I do everything that is like front. I deal with the front facing stuff. It's great. I just started this role at the top of this year. I was the executive assistant to the executive director of the organization. And like the transition into their org was just completely, it was God. It was literally God. God set me up in such a beautiful way where I am allotted the opportunity to work for such an amazing organization and also focus on my business as well. Now, I will say, Alexis, have not been a good steward of what God has given me. I'm going to own that. I have not been a good steward of it. I have been reflecting over the last month or two, and more so God has been convicting me. I ain't gonna sit here and act like it's just been a me thing. God has been convicting me about that, and I had to repent about the fact that I have not been a good steward over it. And so now I am going to be, and I say that because I started spending more time focusing on the organization, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? Because I love where I work. I love the people. I love what we stand for. I love what I do. But because of that, I kind of blew off this. I realized you are frustrated because your business is not going where you want it to go. But that's a you thing, sister. Now I'm just figuring out what exactly have I been lacking on, what needs to be taken care of, what is the goals for next year, and we got to hit the ground running. And next year being year 10, I can't let another year go by and I not accomplish the things that I want to do. Before, it was fear that was stopping me. Now it's not the fear, it's just me. And we can't let that happen no more. So working for a nonprofit, owning a business. Beyond that, I am a church girl at heart. I grew up in church. I attend an amazing ministry where I've grown so much there over the years. And now I'm one of the worship leaders, and also assisting in building and rebuilding, I should say, our youth ministry and youth department. Trying to balance all these things and still be like sane. I'm still trying to figure out what that looks like and how to go about it, but God is still good. Outside of all the things that I do, I feel like I need to talk about like how I got to where I am, right? So Alexis was not always this extroverted presenting individual. I was very shy. I was very reserved. I was very quiet, and I still am. I was very insecure. I was very low self-esteem, the whole nine. I grew up with a loving family, and I think that my parents and my family did the best they could with what they had. My family wasn't the ones that created the beliefs that I had about myself. It was the experiences I had outside that created that. So for example, I grew up in church, like I said, and one of the minister's wives had said to me, "You will never be anything." Like she literally said this to me, and I laugh at it now because it's like, that is crazy work. That is like, I don't even know. It was completely unwarranted. I will say she was not the nicest to the teens and the kids in our church. It was a particular day where we were at church, and being kids, she didn't like that we were being kids and we didn't know any better. Nothing like crazy. And she was just like nailing us. But she looked at me in particular and said, you ain't never gonna be nothing. Like, never. You're just worthless. Like, this is literally what came out of her mouth. And for some reason, that statement that she said planted. And I was probably like 10 when that happened. And I allowed that statement to plant, root, and grow. I took it as truth. I took it as fact. And I lived my life according to what she said. And I did not really strive for much. I felt like whatever goals I had were not really, what's the point? Because it's not worth anything. I'm not going to accomplish them. I believed that for many years, probably until mid-20s. I'm 38 now. I forgot to mention that. Until like late 20s, I believed what that woman said about me. And it wasn't, even when other people would say the opposite, right? People would come to me all the time like, you're so beautiful, you're so talented, God's hand is on you. And I would be like, okay, maybe I am, but I never saw it. And I didn't believe what anybody said. If it was good, I didn't believe it. It got to the point that I was so disgusted with myself. I would not look in a mirror for years. And that is not an exaggeration at all. I literally would not look in a mirror. Looking in a mirror, if I was in a bathroom, obviously bathrooms have mirrors. If I caught a glimpse of myself, immediately I was looking the other way. Immediately. I did not want to look in a mirror at all. I hated taking pictures. I hated being in the forefront. I hated any ounce of attention. Hated it completely. That went on for years and years and years and years and years, until like one day I was at church, and I was at a new church. I was an adult. I started going to a different church. The pastor's wife at that church just spoke so much life into me. And I think she saw where I was without me fully I don't even think I was fully aware of it. She saw where I was, and she would just always speak life into me. She always affirmed me, right? All the time. Even when it was like not warranted. Something about that did something in here that I was like, I need God to fix this. I need him to fix this. Because at some point, I was doing the external work, right? So I would put on the clothes and I would, look the part. But internally, I was still disgusted. And I was like, I need God to do something about this. And he started doing the work. And so as he started doing that work, it started to change my perspective about who I was. It started to change my perspective about my decision making, changed my perspective on my relationships entirely. Entirely looking at an ex after God unmasking the newer version of me. I was like,
you done lost your mind. When you get your mind, you call me.
It was that type of transformation. That went on for some years, and now I look at where I am today and the fact that I can look in the mirror and be like,
looking real clean, you looking real bad, you looking like a queen.
We see it. Are you perfect? No, you're still big backed. You're still hyperpigmentation. You have a huge gap. You have all these things, but it does not bother me the way that it used to. And I'm like, that is growth. The fact that I look in the mirror when there's no makeup on, when the hair looks a mess and there's crust in my eyes, and I'm still like, but I see what God did. And that's growth. Having said all of that, I believe that God has assigned me when it comes to what I'm purposed here for. I believe that God has purposed me to help other women and young women walk through that process. And walk through that process through conversations about faith, through fashion, and at some point music. And I am nervous about it, but I'm doing it anyway because I am a believer that I remember what that felt like. I remember the depression. I remember the low self-esteem. I remember the insecurities. I remember hiding. I remember all of it. And I have always said, I will never want another woman or girl to feel and experience what I did. And if I can do something about it, I will. And so I believe that God is using my words and perfect. I was waiting for you to say that. And so this platform that is being birthed, called Sewcialize with Lexx, is where we have those discussions. So if you are somebody that is struggling with body image, struggling to deal with the external or heal the internal, or you just want to have some girl talk, this is where it is, right? Because it's not always going to be, every conversation that we have is not always going to be tears. It's not always going to be deep and heavy. Because sis, I got some story times. Okay, and some of my stories are kind of wild. They're not gonna make you cry. They're probably gonna make you laugh or be like, girl, are you for real? Yes, I'm very for real. But I had to express how we got here and what the purpose of this space is. The space is for us to come together and really find this common ground of healing. And how do we heal? How do we overcome some of these experiences? I've overcome quite a few of them, and there are people that may be ahead of me on the journey that can help me in certain spaces, and there may be people that are alongside or people that are coming up from behind. But I'm here to help us learn to heal through Christ together. And we're going to do that through fashion. We're going to do that through conversation. We're going to do that through talks about our faith. I'm just looking forward to doing that. So I feel like I said a lot. I didn't want to go too deep into how we got from this healing space and insecurities to the business part, because I'm going to do a separate video for that. But I will say this, in that process of healing and uncovering who God truly has created me to be, has caused me to go from the back to the front, right? Because I talked about how hiding was comfortable. I was comfortable being in the background. I was comfortable not having to be exposed for the world to see. And I was doing well, right? I can sing. Like I said, I'm on the worship team. I'm a worship leader now. But before, just put me in the choir. Put me on the praise team as an alto. Or I can float because I can sing all three parts. Not trying to flex. I'm just saying. Shout out to my brother Travis who helped me learn how to do that. I was comfortable in the back. And God was like, that's cool. But it's time to come forward. He has graced me with amazing people that helped that process and journey. Am I completely there? No. There are areas now that God is calling me to. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I'm okay where I am. I don't want to do that. But either I'm going to willingly go and do it, or I'm going to go being dragged. And I feel like one option is probably better than the other. Just saying. So now I'm in this space where God is just putting me out here, whether it's out here in church, out here via the business, because again, I want it to be behind the scenes. This is how much so I want it to be behind the scenes. When God told me to create the business, I was trying to create a way of creating the business without me having people having to know that it was me. Because I was that like, I didn't want any parts. It was me trying to finesse and manipulate the will of God. See, this is another conversation we can have for another day. It was like this thing of like, I'm gonna do what God said, but I'm gonna do it in a way that I'm still comfortable. And the truth of doing the will of God is it's not comfortable. It will never be completely comfortable. You will never be just like fully just, oh, I'm just in here and I'm just doing it. No. There's always going to be a level of stretching. There's going to be a level of like doing something, navigating waters that you're not familiar with, because that's how you develop trust. And I'm learning that like our walk with God should not just be solely like we just get used to doing it. If you just are in a space where you are doing everything you do is comfortable when it comes to God, you might want to reevaluate, because I'm telling you, there are times that God will have you doing stuff that's like, this is very out of my comfort zone. I don't know how this is going to navigate. I don't know how this is going to work out. And that is where you trust God. If you are always doing things where you always know how it works out, you always know how to navigate it, you always know what to do, you're always comfortable, there's no need to trust because you already know. Hopefully that makes sense. I hope that makes a lot of sense. Like, it just dawned on me just now. I was trying to manipulate a little bit. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I'm not gonna try to sugarcoat and create a different word to use. I was trying to manipulate God, which is really crazy. That's really insane in the membrane. God told me to create the business, and I was like, okay, cool. I don't want people to know that it's me. Like, I'm gonna just try to create like a faceless business. And God was like, no, you're missing it, because you're going to be the face of it. Like, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. But needless to say, here we are. And I feel like I always have tried to do that. Like, oh, I'm gonna do music, but I don't want people to know it's me, so I'm gonna try to do it under a different alias, or I'm gonna do it, but like, don't tell nobody it's me, because I was always afraid of being critiqued, rejected, talked about. The list goes on and on. There were so many fears and things that I was dealing with internally that I just did not want to be exposed to the world. I was afraid of being exposed. And when I say the world, I don't mean like the big old world, because ain't nobody really checking for me, you know what I'm saying? But when I say the world, I mean like my world, the people that know me. I didn't want to put myself in a space where they have the ability to critique what I'm doing, because I was afraid of what people would think about me. I was a people pleaser. The approval of people mattered more than God's approval. And so I would pick and choose what I was doing based off of how would other people respond to what I'm doing. And God had to correct me and check me and convict me. And I had to surrender that, because that was a part of me, like in a huge way. I would choose what pleased people more than what pleased God, and that became very problematic. I feel like I just kind of rambled and talked all over the place. I hope that this made sense. I hope that in some way, space, or form, this allows you to get to know me just a little better. And of course, like, I'm a very transparent and open person, so I will probably be sharing various stories and experiences as time goes. But I just wanted to take a moment and reintroduce myself to you all. I pray that you stay and stick around and have a good time with me as I am learning how to do all the things and balance all the things. I hope that my experiences and vulnerability and stories and transparency in my journey helps you on yours. And yeah, that's it. That's all. So until next time, bye.